everyone to Sea Trade Cruise Talks on cruise development for destinations. So super excited to see you here. This is part 3 of a 4-part series, and I have with me my partner in crime, Ioannis Bras. Today's part, we are going to discuss social media, exhibitions, and visitor experiences. Now, if you didn't catch the first 2 parts of the series, part 1, we've talked about just the basics, and part 2, we moved into port presentations and technical tips. But let's go ahead and dive into today's presentation. We have a really exciting lineup for you. So first of all, I guess I should introduce myself. My name is Shannon McKee, and I am the founder and president of Access Cruise. We are a small consulting firm that focuses on the cruise industry. We work with ports and destinations, tour companies, port agents, and we love technology companies. As well, I have my own technology company. We are the co-founder of Zielia. Zielia is a standardized destination platform for ports and destinations all around the world to house their information and share with the cruise industry, so it's simple and easy. But with me here today, I also have my partner in crime, as I mentioned, Ioannis. Ioannis.
Hello, everybody. I'm Ioannis Bras. I'm founder and CEO of Arnaldo Consulting. I'm also having a consultancy business for cruise development, and we also now help a lot of ports on the cruise restart processes. And we're very excited to have you here for our part 3 of our webinars.
Thank you, Ioannis. So why don't we go ahead and dig in? I'm going to take the first part, and Ioannis, I'm going to let you take the second part. So you're going to talk about port experiences, and I'll take on the social media and exhibitions. How's that sound?
Thank you. Thank you so much, Shannon.
Perfect. Well, I'm going to dig in for social media, exhibitions, and visitor experiences. And here's what we're going to run down today. We're going to talk about the port and destination website and the importance of social media for destinations and for ports in particular. An overview of the worldwide cruise exhibitions and conferences, an effective exhibition booth, business model for cruise development. We'll talk about smart signs and mobile apps, as well as developing your story and creating a local myth. I think storytelling is a big takeaway that we're going to be talking about today. Your visitor experience and enhancement projects involving the local community and integrating technology into these solutions. And finally, the importance of the port experience. Now, I'm super excited because we have an expert that is going to be joining us today from Silversea Cruises, formerly of Disney Cruise Line, Arnaldo Zanonato, who is a port experience specialist and expertise. I've had the opportunity to work with Arnie for many, many years now, and he really has an attention to detail, and he has some really important takeaways that he's going to share with us today. But let's go ahead and get started with the port and destination website. The 7 reasons why a good website is important for your port. Now, anytime that I look at a website today, I think about business cards, and I think business cards in some ways are very passé, but people still have them. I have my business cards here. I have a business card for each one of my companies, my little Zielia business card. But today, your website is like your business card. You have to have one. It's just something that if you're going to do business, even if you're a teeny tiny port, you have to have a website. Your website tells your story. Plus, it's cost effective. It doesn't cost a lot to maintain a website. It's accessible around the clock to cruise line executives, and it's convenient for them. Remember, when we're talking about cruise industry, we're talking about a global industry with everyone in different time zones, so it needs to be simple and easy. Most importantly, it adds credibility. I think this is one of the most important pieces, that with the website, if you don't have it, people wonder if you're really there. You can have social media, but it doesn't do the same thing as having a website. It adds an extra layer of marketing, plus it provides information. Obviously, we're all trying to get information out, so that's a very important piece. Now, at the bottom of each one of our slides, we'll have something in blue sometimes, and these are what we call the nuggets. We hope that in any presentation that you'll be able to take a few nuggets home with you, something that you'll be able to implement, maybe something that you've learned new. So take a look at some of these nuggets as we go through the presentation. The first one is, remember, the website is the mirror of your port and destination to the world. And this is Ioannis's tip. He loves this, and I agree with him. A live webcam it for your port is a must today. I really think it adds an extra layer of professionalism and credibility. So think about that, a live webcam. Now, at this time, I also want to just share with you Zielia. Zielia is a standardized destination platform that I created. I tell the cruise executives, I tell the ports, look, we have to find a way to work smarter, not harder. There are 2,000 to 3,000 ports and destinations out there in the world, and there's about 90 cruise lines. So how do we bring all of this together? We know that our time is constricted, that we're working harder than ever, and Zielia is that platform that brings smarter to the table. It incorporates all the different components of what it takes to market a destination and get your information out there, much more robust than a website. It's not meant to take the place of your website, but it is meant to enhance your marketing. So this is yet another marketing tool that you can use. Zielia, we have partnerships with multiple cruise lines. We are the preferred platform of Holland America Group, Princess, Holland America, Seabourn, and Crystal Cruises, and hope to have many more coming online today. So ask me about Zielia, www.zielia.com. Would love to get you on board and give you an opportunity to showcase your destination to the cruise lines around the world. So now we're going to move into social media. Social media. You know, some people look at social media and they struggle with the business-to-business social media aspect. Because everybody thinks of social media as being more of a consumer-facing program. So when I think about social media, I think about the different social media outlets and where the cruise industry plays. So I'm going to tell you now that the cruise industry, and from my experience, is on social media. As far as a business-to-business relationship, they are on social media, they are on LinkedIn, and they are on Twitter. So if you go in and you take a look at social media and you try to decide where you want to be, if you're trying to have business-to-business relationships, it is imperative that you create a page on LinkedIn and on Twitter. Those are two areas that the industry plays in, they communicate in, they socialize in, so it's a good place to be. Now, on the other side, we have more of the consumer-facing platforms, which is, of course, your Facebooks and your Instagrams, which are also important. Because remember that with these platforms, we're getting the word out there to a broader audience. Now we're beyond trying to convince a cruise line to come in, but we're trying to share our message and our story with the world, which is also important because when you look at sharing it with the world, that's going to drive demand. You look at cruise lines, and some cruise lines are looking to go to places that are marquee destinations. Others are looking to go to bespoke small destinations because they have port collectors that come on their ships and they want to try something new. So it's important that you have all aspects of social media and collaborate with the Visitors Bureau and the city, because there's lots and lots of assets that can be shared in getting your port name out there. So reasons why a port and destination should have social media. Targeted traffic. So social media can drive new targeted traffic. Obviously, it can help get your name out there through SEO, search engine optimization. It helps build relationships and get you noticed. You want to showcase your port, showcase your destination, but most importantly, your competition is out there and they're doing the same thing. You've got to keep up. The world is moving at a fast pace, and if you're not out there and you're not being seen, your competition may get a port call that could have been yours. We move on into the cruise exhibitions and the global cruise exhibitions, and we touched on this a little bit in some of our previous part 1 and part 2 when we talk about exhibitions, because we talked about the importance of planning a port presentation. But where are you going to be giving these port presentations? Obviously, you can give them into the offices, but you can also do them at these exhibitions. So when I look at exhibitions and I decide where I'm going to partake, I like to partake wherever the cruise lines are. But if you're a new port coming into the mix, where are you going to go and where are you going to spend your money? And what I would say is you want to go obviously to a Seatrade virtual, because it's virtual, you can partake in it, it's very cost effective, you get lots of fantastic content that really can be valuable to you. But a Seatrade Global in Miami is probably your first step as well. When you come to Seatrade Global, it's when the world comes together with us. Everyone's here. But I will tell you at Sea Trade Global, with all the executives in town and all the ports and destinations in town from around the world, it's very difficult to get much time with the cruise line executives. They're running and they are meeting with so many different people. If you think about the 2,000 destinations and probably 1,000 come to Sea Trade Global, and you have all these cruise executives, it's really hard to get their attention. But at the same time, it is a great starting point for building relationships, starting to make some of those connections. So I definitely would recommend Sea Trade Global. Now, there's lots of other sea trades that are more regionalized. And now what I would say is that what's nice about those exhibitions is that they're small. So you don't have as many players and as many destinations there. Obviously, there's not as many cruise line executives, but they're usually not as rushed and hurried. So they have more time to engage with you. I love some of these regional exhibitions, even going into your International Cruise Summit and your Postonio Sea Tourism Forum and Florida Caribbean Cruise Conference and the Canada New England Conference, because the cruise line executives will be there. They're not as rushed. They have plenty of time to sit and talk to you, and you can build some of those meaningful relationships. But remember, who is your target? We talked about this in part 1. Are you targeting your small luxury type cruise lines? Are you talking about your regional cruise lines? Are we talking about the large cruise lines, contemporary or premium cruise lines? So it's really important to understand who will be at each of these sessions before you decide which ones you partake in. I partake in some of these regional sessions, even if I don't have a client there, because I want to partake, I want to learn, but because the cruise lines that I need to speak to are there, and it helps me with my relationship building. Your exhibition booth, should you or shouldn't you? That's a big question. If you are just starting out, many times your first time at Sea Trade Global, I would have to say, and I love Sea Trade, but it's probably not the right time on your first go around to build a big exhibition booth. Maybe you partner with the region to come in as a part of an exhibition booth, and I would highly recommend that. It's always nice to have space on the floor, but think about what is right for you when you're starting to go down this path and get your destination out there. When you're building your exhibition booth, make sure that your images and messages are simple and your layouts are clean, that you have the space and equipment for your meetings and tables and chairs, and send out invitations. When we start to get in a Sea Trade Global situation, you need to make sure that the executives know you're there. They're going to be walking by the booth, and it's very easy to miss them. They're being pulled in so many different directions. So make sure that you send out the invitations. They may be able to set up a time with you. Just be prepared that oftentimes they're running late because people are pulling them at all points in time, or they may say that they will stop by and they'll give you a day. But make sure that you let them know that you're there. Create an exhibition, stand ideas that maximize your space and your ROI. And with a great stand, you always want it to be attractive, and make sure to remember the storage space. It's important that when you're exhibiting to allow, tables and chairs so that you can sit and you can rest and you can relax and have those important meetings. But not all cruise lines, as I said, will accept your meetings. They may say that they'll just stop by. So what are the 5 steps to an effective exhibition booth? Number 1, be visual, which we just said. Simple, bold, clear images. Number 2, create a simple headline. Choose your words carefully. Keep the headline simple, clear, and short. That's what makes an effective booth. As well, we move into write a concise description. We have a tendency to want to put it all out there. Don't do it. Whatever you do, don't do it. Use bullet points. Keep it short. Don't get too technical. Technical is not the sexy side. We can have other information on technical or a sheet. Don't put it in your booth. We don't need the technical in the booth. Less is more. And that's the key to making sure that you keep simple images that are very visual, that help bring your destination to life. Step number 4, highlight your name. Make sure your port's name is easy for everyone to see and who they're talking to, and feature your website and your social media handles. Come up with some new fun hashtags that they're using so we can get some of that free social media, earn social media out there, taking pictures that you can put out there to a more consumer market or to the B2B market. And as I said, don't forget the storage space. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn things over to Ioannis, because he's going to take you now through connecting with the experiences with the cruise tourism.
Yes, thank you so much. It was very, very interesting. And as we already discussed before, cruise tourism and cruise businesses connected with experiences. And now we know that this is something which we need to take care of, especially with these difficult times. And experiences are based on culture and history, and obviously the adventures and the gastronomy behind them. But what we want to do, we want to include them and create something for the cruise tourism. Obviously, nowadays, safety is very, very important. But let's talk about the business model for the cruise development. It's all about creating small actions with large effects. And we need to plan them ahead. We need to make sure that we showcase them very well. And we need to create different actions that will cover all 5 senses. Don't forget that every cruise destination must be something and draw the forces from, as we said, history, culture, and gastronomy. And this is very important to be able to showcase it in a very systematic way. It will go a long way among the cruise passengers and the cruise lines when we are able to demonstrate and showcase the project we've done for them. And obviously we need to measure, and we will talk about measurements later on. It's all about creating experiences, as I said, and the tip is to, at any destination, need projects that will improve the passenger experience in all the 5 senses. Think about it. When you are working with something, think on how this is affecting and which senses it affects, and create something and play around it. You know, it's always very nice to take into account how everybody else is feeling and what everybody else is experiencing. Let's talk about smart signs, because this can go a long way into providing direct information. I've put here some examples. On the right, basically, you see a sign of a castle. This particular example was in my hometown in Heraklion, where on the top left corner you can see the new picture of the fort, a description, obviously, on what it's all about, some QR stamps to provide more languages for your passengers, especially if you have a lot of nationalities, an aerial picture that will locate you into the same spot you are standing, and obviously some graphics about the plan of the castle and some photographs. Obviously, think about sponsorships. You don't have always to make the sign yourself. Try to find commercial businesses, in this case it was a beer, believe it or not, who sponsored that sign. And on the left, we have another sign, which basically is a directional sign. It gives very clear information where you're standing at the moment and what's the way forward to go to the city center. And this can help your passengers not to get lost. Let's not forget psychology is cruise and cruise psychology. And when we're thinking about the directional signs or smart signs, it's always to remember a cyclical way to position them. So we need to put them in the destination, in places we know the visitors will walk, and be able to provide information about either the location or the local products or services in the area. This is an example from Mykonos town. It's a very famous cruise destination in Greece. So that's a project we have been doing at the moment. And okay, this is a format I've been suggesting to my clients, mobile sign with an incline. It's 1.8 by 1.2 meters. And this actually gives an opportunity to position it without affecting anything else. Use your hashtag, as we said before. And this is something which, will look like this. And this is actually some pictures which we've done this project in Agios Nikolaos. This is an award-winning project, and believe me, many people, thousands of people are standing in front of these signs and getting information about the local products, about what's the recipes, and information about the area they stand. Let's talk about why smart maps are very important. They're very important because they provide information to the cruise lines, and as we know, cruise lines are selling the excursions, but the day before, at 10 o'clock, usually the excursion office closes. So this is our way, the destination's way, to provide accurate information about their own destination. And I'm sure that the cruise lines will use this information when they're allowed to, and electronically, that's the way forward, not paper if we can. Give it to the persons who would visit that destination, and the next day that information will be available. And obviously, what information should be on the back of this A4 paper or this information? Information about the local products, the olive oil or the cheese, or even the bread and honey. And this is very important because sometimes people don't know what are the local products in the destination, and will assist them on the way of the thinking process that when they go ashore, they will be able to buy these products. Let's talk about now about mobile apps, as Shannon mentioned before. This is a very useful way on saving on paper and increase your sustainability. We can work with your local authorities and create a local app that will provide all the information about the destination, about local markets, maybe some festivals. It will give you a good locator on where you are, and basically showcase a place of interest, local gastronomy, and other places. It will help you find local beaches or what's nearby. And obviously, we will be able to alert you if there are some promotions in the area.
Ioannis, I think as you're talking through, I think that this is a really big deal today. I mean, moving away from the paper piece that for so many years the cruise ships did, and we provided them with a map and they would copy it and hand it to passengers. When we come to sustainability, I think this is something that every port should really seriously take into consideration, and in the investment that it would take to create a mobile app to move away from those paper pieces and give that information.
You're very right, Shannon, and to me that's the way forward.
Yeah.
You can update it whenever you want, as you said, and it will be free to download for passengers, not just the passengers, for any tourist visitor. And let's not forget, you need to do it both iOS and Android system. And the final tip of the day is don't forget to market your app with posters in the locations where there's free Wi-Fi so guests can download it. There's no point developing a very beautiful app and nobody knows about it, really. And I've seen it happening. So please advertise your local app, when people are coming to your port. But you know what? We need to think outside the box. We need to be innovators. And when you think outside the box, you will be able to create experiences. You'll be able to create small projects that will make a difference. And that is something that your passengers will remember. They will give you very good grading, when they ask from the cruise lines. But the cruise line itself will understand and appreciate all your efforts. So let's see a project, an example, because it's very interesting. Here we have an olive tree, right? As I said, I come from that very beautiful island of Crete. Lots and lots of olive oil. So we create the project. You can see on the top right corner the sign and the senses that this project affects: the smell, the feeling, the hear, and the see. And basically, what we do, we showcase that there's olive oil products in the island. It's a very good produce. And what we said by creating a very beautiful sign called Elia, which is the olive tree. What's the history of that olive tree? How you're harvesting the whole olive tree, and what products can you buy? And obviously, we gave some very specific information about that specific olive tree that is 480 years old, and in its lifetime, it has produced enough olive oil for 1.8 million Greek salads. And when you're able to provide such information, everybody will go with a smile. So please find what's your local tree, your local product, and be able to create a small project to enhance and showcase this product to your passengers.
And I think
Yes.
The other thing that you talked about when we talked about this and we were planning this was the benefit to the port as well, as far as guests buying now souvenirs and what they're buying and how it increases the revenue flow for the port as well.
Sure, not only to the port, the whole destination. And very often you find that people come to a place and don't know what its products are, what is the specialities. And you'll be able to provide direct information about your products. It's very crucial to me on the success and success of the whole community sometimes. Sometimes the whole community is depending on the cruise calls to make, revenue. So it's up to us to work with the local authorities, to work with the commerce associations locally, and create such projects. And it's all about experience sharing, how we can create things that we will be able to share them. And a very, very good example I have here is a project which I call the Kissing Spot in Mykonos, where we create, a technical piece of work, a bench with a nice heart, some mosaic, and we say Mykonos Kissing Spot with a hashtag possibly, and we're able to sit there, take selfies, and what do we do with the selfies? We post them in the social media. That is all about creating memories. So when you go back to your home, you have something to show, something to remember. And this is what it's all about, simple things.
Yes.
And obviously, the way to do that is try to take advantage of your local myths. Try to take advantage of your local history. Here we have the myth of Minotaur. We all know the local myth of the Minotaur through Disney, and the movies. But what we did is we created, and dressed the buses that transfer the passengers from the ships to the port. And what we said, we said, who is the Minotaur? What's happening with that story? You know why this is so important? And you know what? This increased tremendously the spending on local souvenirs. So where you're able to tell the story to the passengers, they will follow. It's an exciting story about the Minotaur. I urge everybody to go and read it, the real story of the Minoan civilization. But I guess and I bet that every destination has a story to tell. Every destination has something very important to say to its guests.
Very true.
It's very, very important to incorporate technology, not only for thinking about perhaps your disabled passengers. Nowadays they get more and more in the cruise ships. We'll see sometimes 50, 60 people in wheelchairs. We need to think about them and the way they move from the ship into the local market or the excursions and do something about it. And obviously, we can use technology, as you said. We go out to the paper, Shannon. Here is we have gamified local products, and we invite people to play a free game and basically take some photos, some snapshots while they play, and they can email it themselves. That I bet you will get a big smile at the end of the game. Or when we use virtual experience, this technology is moving forward all the time. We need to create a virtual guide in our port so people can play with it. And you know what? All the information they like, they can send an email themselves. That's a very good way to move forward. And also, not only you that are using the system is very excited, but also other people who see you use the system get very excited about this and your destination. And you know what? You need to involve the local community. A local band playing ABBA or some local dances. You can go a long way onto making your passengers smile. And when people and your passengers, your guests are happy, they're going to spend money in your destination for sure. And that will increase their experience. Many times I've seen people dancing with the locals, taking photographs with the locals, or many times, when a ship goes away, a local band playing below on the deck, on the quay is very important and makes them really happy and smiley. And finally, storyteller. I'm sure that nobody can tell your story better than the local people. So please try and find a way to take the story to your passengers. In this case, we have a Segway, a guy dressed in a very nice suit, and this guy is telling stories or giving information to the passengers. Make them feel welcome, make them feel safe is very important, especially these difficult times we're facing, and we're hoping for a quick restart very soon. Shannon?
Yeah, so let's take a look at what it takes in your destination to create success. It's a list. We see the signs here. It's involving the community and the local stakeholders and getting their cooperation and creating that alliance. It's innovating and technology that needs to be incorporated into what you're doing today. Let's start to move, as I say, smarter, not harder. And I think technology is the way that we need to do this and incorporate this. Take a look at your infrastructure and facilities, and see what you can do. Safety. Now, we didn't talk about safety as much today. In our last two sessions, we really focused on safety. But safety is a big, big piece right now, obviously with COVID happening. But safety at any point in time is a big piece that the cruise lines look at when they come into a port. Obviously, the history goes into your storytelling and what, the story of the port and your destination is, incorporating that culture. The people today, and if you look at the trends that are happening in, all travel, it's that immersive experience that people are looking for. They're looking to understand what is it like to be a local? What does that feel like to be a local? So bring that culture to these guests as well. Obviously, everybody loves gastronomy, food. I mean, you can't go wrong when you start incorporating all the local ingredients of foods, everything from the olive tree, or I think about when I go to Cozumel, I think about their vanilla and their chocolate, and of course the shore excursions. Now, obviously, there are shore excursion providers out there that will do this, but presenting this as a part of your destination and working collaboratively with your providers and your service providers and tour providers, it's important to understand what they're offering the cruise lines, because that should also be a part of your presentation. You want the destination as a whole to be put out there to the cruise lines, whether it's your piece or not your piece. You want them to know everything that there is to offer. So that's very important. So if you're looking at your success, there's lots of different tips here that you should take away and incorporate into your strategy.
Let's talk about our pristine guest.
Yes, no, we're so, as I said in the beginning, we are so excited that we were able to convince Arnaldo to come and join us today. He is the Senior Director of Destination Management at Silversea Cruises. And, you know, I have worked with Arnaldo now for many, many years in both his previous role at Disney Cruise Line and now at Silversea. And what I love about Arnie is he has that attention to detail. He really, really looks at the immersion and the five senses, Ioannis, everything that you talk about, the five senses, from, you know, smelling and hearing and tasting and feeling. And he really can dive into that and talk to that on what they looked for at Disney, what they look for at Silversea when they're coming into a new destination. So at this time, I'd love to bring Arnie, if you can turn on your camera and join us. We'd love to have a conversation with you about, you know, what it takes for a port and developing that port experience and how important that is to you and the cruise industry and the cruise lines as a whole, and what they can do and how they can do it better.
Hi, everybody.
Arnie.
Thank you, Shannon. Thank you, Ioannis. Thanks for your kind words. It's so great to be here with you guys. Thanks for the invitations. It's very exciting. I was enjoying your presentation, and you're absolutely right. I was having like just, you know, loving, and then looking at Mykonos and looking at Crete and some of my favorite ports there, and some of the great experiences that I had, that I got the chance to enjoy and bring it to our guests as well. So thank you for the invitation. Great to be here.
So glad to have you, and so glad to really dive into your expertise, Arnie. Like I said, I mean, I've had the opportunity to work with you on multiple projects, and you just have a different way of looking at things. I mean, there's a lot of cruise executives that I've worked out there, but you really have that attention to detail. And maybe it's your time at Disney and working through, and it's very different, I guess, with what you're doing today with Silversea, because at Disney you went to a few ports, but that experience was very, very you know, you looked at every aspect from A to Z. And now you're with Silversea, where you're going to probably 1,000 ports now, right?
Yeah.
And so now you're looking at it, but, you know, some of these smaller ports, really bespoke ports, and that you're looking at those guest experiences. What can they be doing better? You know, how should they prepare for someone like Silversea and those Silversea guests to come and visit?
So total different challenge, right, from one company to the other. But at the essence of it all is really storytelling. It's really trying to figure out together with the destination why we're bringing the guests there. What is the reason that we are spending the time and that you should come and visit this place? Whether it is one single thing, and certain destinations have that iconic eye catcher, so to speak, that great marketing either site or iconic landmark or experience or wildlife that the guests really want to come and see. And then sometimes we have destinations that the guests are not really quite sure, they haven't maybe heard much, but as they visit, they truly fall in love with. And we see this, I'm sure, from not only the larger vessels that call certain destinations like that, to also some of these boutique places and small ports that we get to call with our small vessels as well. But we see a combination. Sometimes having this iconic landmark or iconic experience can work both ways, because there's a lot of expectation that comes with going to places like perhaps Santorini or Mykonos, as you were saying, Ioannis, but then you may have not heard so much from Crete or not understand much, and then all of a sudden you get there and you're like, you know what, I actually love that port more. I booked the cruise because of Santorini or Mykonos, but I ended up having an amazing experience at this other place that I perhaps did not know much. So different challenge, but really, really exciting. One thing that I wanted to talk about that when we were talking about how to deliver the destination, that I think it's interesting is sometimes, as I was saying, guests come for this one iconic place, right? Or one iconic experience that they know about this destination. But the reason why they may end up coming back, it's a collection of small moments that happen throughout the entire experience. And those moments can be a collection of service deliveries. It can be a collection of surprise and delight moments. You know, when you are in a remote location like the ones that we visit for Silversea, and all of a sudden we're able to pull out and deliver an amazing 5-star service in the middle of the jungle, that is not taken away from the experience that you're having, but on top of that is actually complementing it. That's another reason why you're like, wow, you know, I really came because I wanted to see this orangutan, for example, but I ended up loving this place because the meal that we had at the restaurant was an incredible experience. I did not know anything about Malaysian cuisine, for example, and I ended up loving that. Or I met super kind people, or the cleanliness of the restrooms was incredible. Because even if when we're talking about this collection of moments, it can be anything, right? It's all about this when we are able to deliver more than the expectation that was there. And that's something that Disney always, that Disney actually taught me. They say, you come to the Magic Kingdom to see the castle, you come back because of the landscaping, the cleanliness, the friendliness of the people, the smell, the sharp paint of the buildings, or the attractions that are upkept. So those are things that become very tricky when you go into destinations that are, you know, sometimes experiencing day-to-day life.
You know, that's an interesting point, what you say about Disney. They come for the castle, but really it's everything else that brings them back.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
So if there was a port, you know, as we have a lot of ports and destinations on here, and you're a new port, or even if you're an established port, I mean, what is it that you would recommend somebody look at when they're looking at a port experience? So when you get off that ship, or you're coming to do, and I know you've done so many port inspections, not technical inspection, you know, inspections. On our next session, and in part 4, we're going to talk about the technical side of preparing for port inspection. But from your standpoint, because you're all about the guest experiences and the guest facing, I mean, when you get off, what's the first thing you think of? Is it that you're smelling or feeling, or, you know, if you teleport, walk through this with me, what are the areas that you would point out to them, you know, that you've had in the past? Maybe you have some past experience that you can share. You know,
ultimately, we know that the guests go to a destination because of what's going to happen and what experiences they're going to have in the destination. But we cannot oversee the entire logistic and the entire infrastructure that needs to be there and present to facilitate that. And that's connecting to what Ioannis was presenting before. You know, when you arrive at a destination, from terminal facility to the actual experience outside of the port, or in that immediate city or village or structure that is right there close to the port, if guests arrive and the basic things are not taken care of, we talked about safety, cleanliness, right? Where signage, what it tells me, and I come from a hospitality background, so I studied hotel management, you know, so it's all about the guest is coming to your home. It tells me you were not expecting me. It tells me you were not ready for me. So, you know, when you do not have signage that is appropriate for the entire demographics, I know we were talking about bringing technology into it and bringing, absolutely, that's where we need to go. But what we need to understand as well is that from all the demographics that a destination may be catering to, there is not one answer that will accommodate everybody. So I like this approach of, we need a digital, we need signage on the street. So we need a plethora of options as we transition generations as well. You know, at Silversea, we cater to an older demographics. The silent generation and the baby boomers are kind of our primarily demographic that's sailing with us. But you know what? Occasionally in our ships like the Galapagos, we'll get more families. So we need to adapt the product and understand that on that particular vessel, or on certain particular voyages, or even in certain particular dates of the year, depending on holidays, school holidays, we will have more kids, so we need to be able to cater to them. So all about preparation. And when you do that, the guest has this sense of they know why we're here, there's organization, there's structure, and they know they've done their homework, right? I was watching your presentation with Hugo, and it's no different than when how the port prepares to present to the cruise line. The port needs to prepare to showcase itself to the guests when they arrive. And that comes with intention. You need to have intention in everything that you do. So if you are going to create a path as you arrive in the port, or if you're going to paint windows, or if you're going to create signage, from fonts to colors to design to plants that you're decorating, everything should have an intention as to why you're selecting that. Everything is an opportunity. From the planter that you put outside that has a particular plant, are you choosing to use plants that are telling the story of your destination? Are you choosing to enhance the experience for that one or two guests that happens to be a garden fanatic that will notice that the plants that you have there decorating your port facility or your streets of your city or your attraction, right? If you have an attraction in a port, that those are endemic plants. And are they only being endemic? Can they only be found there? Can they turn into attractions? So Ioannis was talking about the scent. The soap that you're going to have in your restroom, is it telling the story you want? If you are in Alaska, do you want tropical Hawaiian soap? Or maybe you could have an opportunity to put like a s'mores flavor or something that will connect you to some Alaskan true memory. So it may sound a little quiche, but it's those collection of small moments that are helping to solidify the guest that this is a destination that, and us as cruise executives, that gets it, that works hard for it, and uses intention for everything.
That's a very great point.
That the experience starts from your car park and finishes back to the ship. And everything, no matter how small it might be, it has to be thought thoroughly, and has to be the easiest way to be given out as to your passengers, to your guests. And I always wanted to know that we need to take care of our elderly and our disabled passengers, special care for them. They tend, as probably you would agree, to be a clientele that is in the increase. We see a lot of wheelchairs moving around, and you know what? If you are in a port executive, please sit on a wheelchair and try to do the path yourself, so you would know and understand what they feel and see.
Absolutely. We need to be catering to everybody, right? Even though you may have a smaller segment of guests that may have that particular need, you need to be inclusive. And the one thing you don't want is to be called out for not being inclusive, whether it is for all the demographics, right? When you think of guests from a variety of backgrounds and religions, when you think of guests from different nationalities that speak a multitude of languages, that have disabilities or not, you really want to be as inclusive as you can. And with that, what you will find is by doing that, your audience, you just broaden your audience automatically, because a lot of the platforms that are used to give more access to guests with disabilities, whether they are visual disabilities or mobility disabilities, they end up then facilitating the elderly or children or international guests, because the technology involved in providing someone that perhaps cannot see an audio information then can be applied to someone that does not speak English, and then can be done and speak another language perhaps, or does not speak Greek or Spanish or whatever language it is. So you will see that investment ends up just broadening your demographic for sure. And I think that ties in with another kind of a tip that I have as well. So I talked about be intentional with everything. The other thing is really be guest-centric. So especially now when we're talking about COVID-19 protocols, right? We all know we've been doing nothing but rewriting protocols, and we are on version 20, 30, 40 of all these protocols. This is a marathon, not a sprint, everybody. But believe me, we are working on it. We need to keep ourselves, while there's a lot of compliance involved in these processes and a lot of safety and health, absolutely the top one priority, as we design these processes, whether it is the check-in process, which is kind of my area at Silversea now together with the events, but whether it is your shore excursions, whether it is your port experience, you know, and all those requirements, be guest-centric. Do not do the process or create a flow that benefits the organization. Experience it from the side of the guest. Is this the best way for the guest? Can I create perhaps more efficiency on the guest experience? It may be a little bit more work for us, but we need to, it's already hard that we're coming with so many new things, right, that are changing from our normal experience. We need to make sure that we are removing those barriers and become guest-centric. I'll give you a clear example that everyone has experienced, that has nothing to do with the cruise industry, but I can guarantee everyone will relate to. You know, when you call a customer service center for whatever, right, your phone bill or whatever, and you go through the whole story, you tell them everything that's happening, and then they're like, they realize that in order for that person that you told everything now is not the person that can help you with your particular needs. So they need to transfer you to another department, right? So instead of empowering a customer service to do everything, they segmented for whatever reasons. I'm not saying that they're not being guest-centric, but clearly sometimes we get transferred 2 to 3 times and we have to retell that story all the time. That is not being guest-centric in my view. If I am customer service, I should be able to solve for everything. And the few companies that get it right, bring someone into the phone call, that customer service agent took the time to pass all the information over to that other person, and they do kind of a little handover, right? This is Arnaldo here. I have Shannon on the line. I've explained her your case. She's going to take from this moment on. So this is a simple example to see how processes need to be guest-centric.
Yeah, very good point, you know, Arnie. And I think that ports have a little bit, you know, they should be challenged or pushed in the fact that the cruise lines, they have really over the years perfected their guest-centric, you know, protocols and strategies on board. And so they really look for the port to be an extension of themselves. So when, you know, you really, as a port, you need to keep up with that guest experience. The cruise lines, especially, let's say with Silversea, right? They have this 5-star experience. And when they come off, we need to make sure that we're trying to create a seamless experience of, again, guest-centric and do it on purpose, you know, with intention. And I think it puts definitely a challenge in ports' hands to think about that and think about that the way these cruise guests are coming to visit. And the cruise guests are coming to visit this way for a specific reason because of the way they're taken care of on board. And now they want to go ashore and they want to experience, but they expect a similar experience that things are done on intention.
Yes, it's certainly a challenge for us because we deliver that ultimate experience on board. And just about every cruise line has an amazing experience, right? When you talk about Silversea and butler service and 5-star cuisine and all-inclusive experience, that kind of challenge for us is how do you deliver that in the destination? I think that the paradox that we have is we also want to deliver the true authentic destination.
Right.
You know, we, especially on our expedition product more than anything, but throughout the company, our motto is really, you know, taking you closer to the true beauty of our planet and our destinations. And sometimes that may mean roughing it up a little bit, you know, because you may need to get to a location that does not have resources. But what it comes with that is, I think, because our guest to crew ratio is amazing on board as well, practically 1-to-1, it allows us to have great communication with the guest. You know, our crew will deliver and set the right expectations. This is what we are able to do here. And if we don't have a 5-star meal, we got you the best lunch box that you can have. But when you are in the middle of the jungle somewhere or an incredible remote location, sometimes hundreds of kilometers or miles away, you will appreciate for what it is. And I think it's finding that balance, right? How can you elevate the service, still be truthful? You do not want to have 5-star cuisine if you're in Jamaica, right? You certainly want jerk chicken somehow. You perhaps want the most surprising jerk chicken and refined experience you can have. but you want the real deal because that's really why you're going there. And ultimately, we can have international cuisine in all of our cities, especially our guests, just about anywhere. But it really is about that story. Who is cooking? Who is behind the kitchen? Who is that person? How many generations? How did you learn how to cook? Those are the stories behind what the guest is experiencing that really truly elevate, right? When I've had a meal and all of a sudden I know it was cooked by this person and I know their story, how did they come here? Why are you bringing me to this restaurant here? All those things really are the building blocks of an amazing experience ashore.
Right. So let me ask you this. You've obviously, Arnie, been around the world. I mean, are there some destinations out there that are doing it right that you can give us as an example with all the destinations that you've gone to? And maybe that, it's different aspects that somebody's done. You call out a couple boards that, they've done this really well, or they've done this really well. Just to give us a few examples on what some takeaways could be for us.
Sure. So I think that is a combination here. First of all of the guests, as I said before, come with an expectation. So in the marketing, in the marketing world, we talked about taking guests through the funnel of marketing, right? All the way from generating interest, all the way through converting into an actual booking and a trip that they're going to go and visit in the destination. So the intent begins all the way into those TV shows, those movies that they may have seen that are set in these locations, that use the location as a beautiful setting, or they've watched a travel show, or they consume on Instagram. You were talking about social media before, and you have destinations that have that. I mentioned Jamaica before. When you talk about Caribbean, I always use perhaps Jamaica and Mexico as two great examples of destinations and countries that have an easily identifiable identity from a marketing perspective. The guests know what to expect, and then you have to deliver on that and elevate. So I think that destinations that work with that have that base. One destination that for me, and I'm talking very much about personal experiences here. When I went to Kirkwall in the Orkney Islands in northern Scotland for the first time, I had my Scotland expectation, right, of what I needed to experience, and I'll this is basically what our guests do. Like, I'm sure there will be whiskey. I'm sure there will be a certain type of cuisine. I'm sure there will be shops selling tartans, and I'm going to learn about castles and all those things that are and the beautiful open spaces. But when I got to the Orkneys, what delivered specifically for me, that really delivered the wow, was the entire archaeological sites that they have. Some of the oldest archaeological sites in the world, much older than the pyramids of Egypt, for example. So that really blew my mind, because I had no in-depth knowledge of that until my trip there, and I knew that the guests were going to react the same, and so they did. The destination always rates very high. So I think that they are a great, and they're a small destination, right? So the communities behind it, you kind of have this sense of taking a peek into someone's lives, and then you're blown away by this amazing history and food and everything. So you come with your expectations, they deliver on those of Scotland, but then they're like, no, we're much more than Scotland's. Orkney Islands is a whole different deal, and then they elevate that. So that's one example. Thinking about now, perhaps here in the Caribbean, a total different experience, right? That it is about elevating, and I'll use Costa Maya just purely because it's kind of the entire opposite. It was, Mahawala fishing village right there, and they created a cruise ship destination, but they used the focus of let's elevate all this amazing history and beauty that we have not only around us, archaeological sites and the reefs and the natural beauty, but let's also create an experience that continues to talk about further beyond what you have not even seen here. So I think that they did a great job from developing a port experience right there in that immediate facility that would clearly make the guests want to continue to explore, and great benefit working with the community in developing Mahawal as the village, and really creating a world-class destination out of a small fishing village, and just seeing the potential that there was there. So this is two different worlds there in terms of cruise experience.
That's excellent.
What I always say, Arnie, and we discussed it with Shannon before, is that each destination, each port should really have one main objective. One, exceed your guest expectations on purpose every time. Mm-hmm. And the way to do that is connect and understand that cruise is psychology and psychology is cruise, and you need to do your best to make everybody feel the happiest they can be in your destination.
Mm-hmm. And perhaps that great segment to my last tip that I had written here. I kind of did some soul searching into things that that I'm passionate about, that I've learned throughout the years, both in my time here at Silversea and then at Disney before. But I had a great leader once. Unfortunately, he has passed many years ago. He was a hotel director with Disney Cruise Line. His name was Mike Mahendran. Some of you may have worked or heard. Truly a legend in the hospitality, and he was just this energetic, over-the-top leader, present everywhere, energy, right? And one of the things that he instituted at the ships that he was in, and at that time, I was a guest service manager. Before my Shorex years, I worked the front desk, so truly the heart of the ship right there at guest services, guest relations. And we had a program called Aggressive Hospitality. And I always, I'm originally from Brazil, so of course I always translate things into Portuguese, my native language. And then the word aggressive, it's a little bit of a harsh word.
Right.
It can feel, but I'll break it down and then you understand what it is. It's aggressive in a way of very forward, very you first. So what it means, the whole principle about aggressive hospitality is you always greet the guest first. You go above and beyond to tell the guest that you're excited with their visit. You don't just respond. You're not passive into the communication or into the service. You really seek out guest contact. You seek out communication. You engage with the guest. You want to make sure that they're having a great time. And when you take this concept of aggressive hospitality from presence of leadership throughout your attraction, your port of call, your arrival experience in the port, or throughout the city, because that could be with, many destinations have those information folks positioned throughout your port destination. Seeking out that, being aggressive with the hospitality piece, and connects as well to that being intentional. You really want to be very forward, almost, and it's a little uncomfortable in the beginning. I mean, Disney does it super well. Because it's part of the nature of smiling and engaging with the guests, and the cruise industry itself followed with that. Very, very few locations you walk on board and people are greeting you from a distance and shouting, "Welcome everybody, glad that you're here." All that kind of stuff, it really creates an energy around and a buzz that even the shyest of the guests will end up with one of those, like, wow, I remember this because people were super friendly here. So yeah, I really like that. And something that I took for life is really, you don't wait for others to greet you, you greet them first.
Right. That's a very good point. Very good point. So go ahead, Ioannis.
No, I'm just saying that it's excellent, having these discussions with people like Arnie, and, always elevates our webinars. And, we really, really appreciate you coming here and share your past experiences, Arnold. It's so good to have you here, and we thank you so much. I mean, I think that even experts today would have learned from your wisdom.
You're very kind.
I wrote down notes, Arnie. I mean, you and I spoke, I know, a few weeks ago and talked about this, but I always take notes because, as many times as you and I have had conversations and we participated on panels together or collaborated together, I always learn something new from you. So, I truly appreciate you joining us. But what I took away today was, you set your intentions, do things on purpose. As we said, think about the guest-centric side of it. It's not what's easy for you, it's what's best for the guest. Be authentic. And I think that that really, really rings true. I think that that's today, as we globalize, you know, in some ways, yes, you want to take things, but the world's becoming a smaller place. So you really want to be authentic, right? I mean, you don't want to be somebody else. You want to be who you are, and which goes into, you know, the storytelling that we talked about and how important that storytelling is. And then I love this idea of aggressive hospitality. That's the first time I had heard that. And I had never heard that in relation to Disney either. But I love that idea of, you know, not being passive and seeking that, you know, that engagement with the guest. I really think that that takes it the extra mile and in, you know, getting feedback from the guests and making sure their experiences, you know, exceed the expectations on purpose every time, setting those intentions.
Yeah. It's, again, thank you both for inviting me. I am super passionate about the experience on ports. As you can see, I could probably talk for hours on it because I really, really loved it. And every time I travel and I go to places and we're developing a new destination, you know, I really get giddy about the small things. And sometimes it requires someone to bring you as a port, to bring someone, an expert, a cruise executive that can help you see with these other eyes, because you may have been passing this street the whole time, right? But understanding that that is an endemic species, or a particular bird, or a particular type of architecture. And when we are wired to learn through stories, for many years, we did not have written language and written record of anything. The only way that we could teach our young ones was through stories. So this, in our DNA, every time someone paints a picture of what happened and why you're doing this, our brain just records it. And that's connect directly with the five senses that Ioannis was saying. That's the importance of it. And that's why, you know, you try to create this setting so that you can deliver the message that you want. And that can be your stories and the destination experience, but at the same time, it could be why we're going to experience, or why we're going to have the delay that we're going to have to delay. You know, when they say a great communicator, you know, the guest will accept anything. If we're stuck in traffic for 2 hours because of whatever, or if we're going to have to sit on the floor because of whatever, provided you're engaging with the guest and you establish that trust of communication, which tour guides and cruise directors and tour leaders have a great challenge. You really set the tone, and then you can deliver any message. Final piece for all of the destinations and ports out there. I know we're all super busy cruise executives, but you know, I was during the Sea Trade virtual now. A lot of poor folks engaged, and we ended up having some meetings. I want to remind you, everybody, that we are always available. We are the basic free consultant you would have. I always will make myself available for 30-minute phone call with anybody, and I'm able to give you tips. You tell me what you have, but come prepared, know your things, ask your questions, and we will be there to help you through this time, to tell you about how focus, be guest-centric, take this opportunity to these new enhancements to deliver service. You know, this is a great way to remind the guest of how much you've been preparing for them to arrive, cleaning and putting new processes. All those things, just tell the guest, you know, I'm confident, I'm excited to be here, and I know you've prepared, which is what we as cruise lines have been doing. Again, this is a spinball. We're reinventing the way we sail, but I have no doubt that it will continue to be the safest, most enjoyable, and most popular way to travel around the world, because we really look at all these processes, as I said, and we're very guest-centric. So continue to prepare, challenge the status quo. What we all think is good today might change as of tomorrow. You know, there's so many things still to happen in this year, and we're around the corner, but we're not quite there yet. So keep it up, stay, and keep pushing, because we'll get there.
Thank you, Arnie. Again, thank you for your time. This has been amazing. It's been amazing to have you as a guest and for you to share all of your knowledge and your experience with us. And I know the ports will really appreciate it. And I'm sure you're going to get lots of phone calls. So, you know, lots of engagement. So that's wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Arnie. And there's only one thing to say, Shannon, for our viewers, that we're looking forward to soon our webinar number 4, which is going to be for import grading and improvement processes. So for all our webinars, the 4-part series, thank you for watching. Thank you, Annie, and we'll see you soon.
My pleasure. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. We'll see you on part 4.